Good health is the greatest profit in life. The beauty is that this profit can always be reinvested in happy life again. A very warm welcome to all of you for another episode of Let's Talk Life with AIA. And as you are aware, we have been doing some programs and discussing few points all together to help you live a healthier, longer, better life. And our focus today is on mental health. In particular, we are going to talk about the impact of digital technology and social media on our mental health. And to do that, to have a fruitful discussion, we have invited a qualified resource person to join us in the studio. And that is Mrs. Thilini Wijesooriya. And Mrs. Thilini Wijesooriya is a professional counselor and a psychotherapist. She is a lecturer in psychology too. The healthier outlook, healthier outside is a result of healthier inside. So I'm trying to bring out the importance of the topic today, Mrs. Wijesooriya. So Thilini, if you are to start with an overall view about mental health impacted by digital technology, what would be that?
Okay, before talking about the impact on mental health, I'll tell what is mental health. People think it's, when we talk about mental health, people think it's about psychological disorders, mental disorders. So having a proper mental health is not only the absence of psychological disorders, but also a person's ability to cope up with day-to-day stresses, making healthy decisions and having healthy relationships, and it's a combination of many aspects. So coming back to the topic, negative impact because of the digital addiction. Everything has a negative side and a positive side, as you know, especially due to pandemic and the socio-economic crisis in the country. We were compelled to use online resources and services, and tools have made it so easy that we don't have to get out of the house anymore to get anything done. But the negative impact is we are social beings. So if we are social beings, if we don't have the social interaction, where would we go? So in long term, there's a problem since we are social beings and we are having this social distance because of the digital technology, which is not bad again, but we need to, I think, balance everything out. Another reason would be with this social isolation and with these remarkable changes and the development of technology, we are kind of trying to survive by ourselves. I think that also is a negative impact, isn't it?
Okay, so if I picked it right, so it is not always negative. Even as we know, digital technology has a lot of positive things and we used it a lot during last 2-3 years, but there is a negative impact, as you say. So I think it is good to talk about social media. I mean, if I am being honest, I start the day getting into social media, probably I end the day getting into social, maybe you call me as an addict, I don't know. But many people actually have this habit of getting interacted with social media a lot. So let's talk about the short-term impact as well as long-term impacts of the engagement with social media.
Yes, so when we talk about digital addiction or digital impact, the negative impacts, first thing comes to our mind is social media. We would say Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat and whatnot, so many things. Anything is good as long as we could use it for a better cause, right? So we use social media for development of personalities and to development ourselves as, I mean, you as a public figure, you know that, right? We need social media, we cannot survive without that. But the dangerous point is it is addictive, right? Like any addiction, when it becomes an addiction, it becomes a psychological problem. That's where the problem lies. So as you said, even I might start my day with social media. We need to see what's happening. We need to see the notifications. We are worried, but if we have posted something, we want to know if anyone has liked it, right? Whether how many people have reached our post. So we have these kind of things. That is not abnormal, which is absolutely normal. But the thing is, if we are preoccupied with the social media and if it disturbs our day-to-day life, suppose you are doing some work, you are in a recording or you are doing some work, but still if you are worried about what might have happened to my post, it disturbs your life, right? So same wise, when you are spending your time with the family or when you are playing with your kids, even if you are with the phone all the time or if you are with a tab or a laptop, whatever the device it is, yes, it definitely disturbs the life. That's a negative impact.
So Thilini, at our home we have two teens, a 17-year-old daughter and a 19-year-old son. They say, "Mom and Pop, you are addicted to social media," and we say you are addicted. We are doing office work. So what's the scene here? How do we draw a line whether we are addicted or are we doing the official stuff? You say if it has become kind of a disturbance, that's a part of addiction. How do we really know we are addicted or not?
It's a very good point actually. I'll tell some of the symptoms to know if you are addicted. One thing is, as I said earlier, preoccupation with social media. That means whatever you do, the priority will be social media or a device. Then sometimes you would see this, especially with the children, when as parents, when you see they are spending so much time on a device, you would ask, what are you doing today? Now you are 6 hours, you are in this, right? 3 hours you are playing games now. And they would lie to hide the amount of time that they spent on gaming or social media. I think that's nature. I think every kid does that, right? But if they are doing it quite often, like you can clearly see they're spending about 5-6 hours gaming or 5-6 hours on social media, but they would say, no, it's just 10 minutes. I didn't do anything wrong. So like that, they would try to deceive the family. So that is one alarming symptom, I would say. Then they also have withdrawal symptoms.
Withdrawal in the sense from the discussions and all that?
Withdrawal symptoms in the sense, if you take a device away from them or if you restrict them, you will see withdrawal symptoms like anxious, they'll be very irritable, they are angry, then they'll be so moody. You will see a clear difference in their behavior.
Looking at the adult side, say we actually speak about children, so the impact to, the negative impact to people like us, people like, people who work and then still use a phone a lot.
It applies the same. If it's let's say a couple, a husband and wife, if one person is addicted to any kind of device or social media, do you think they'll have a proper communication in the house? So one person would be always complaining, see, you're with the phone, you're not even looking at me, right? So it definitely impacts the relationships as well. Also, as I told earlier, the job, profession we are doing, we can't give 100% if you are preoccupied with these social media and things. So it definitely impacts adults as well. But to some extent, we are able to control it since we know our priorities. But it can go beyond that limit as well.
So Thilini, you speak a lot about the short-term impact, negative impacts. How about the long-term impacts on social?
Yeah, so all these things negatively impact in long term. Suppose if you are having a relationship problem now, it can go on. It can go on and on. You know, a poor communication can lead to a lot of problems in family, right? And if you fail to do something in your job, if you are lagging behind whatever the goals you have to accomplish, that also will impact in long term, right? If you are heading towards a promotion or whatever, everything can slow you down because you are busy doing something else. So whatever we are talking here short term has a long term impact as well.
I got a little scared then we started the discussion. So, so what is the solution? Are we to stop getting involved in social media? Can we do that? And it's like the today's reality that we need to do a lot of social media. What are you suggesting?
I didn't mean to scare you, I'm sorry. But the thing is, we need to understand the negative impacts as well. That's the issue. We are not educated enough to know what can go wrong. If you know that, we always know where to draw the line. So yes, we have to use it. We can't just go back to that era, you know, without any device, without internet. We can't survive like that. We are going ahead with the world. So we need to put some certain limitations, especially if you feel you are addictive already, you need to take some measurements. So for an example, suppose if you are constantly checking your notifications, constantly worried about your social media, maybe you need to switch off your mobile for a while. Not when you are doing something busy, I mean important, but if at all, you know, when you are driving or when you are in a meeting or when you are going to bathroom, switch off your mobile. You see people taking the mobile to bathroom as what is so important, right? World can wait a bit until you wash and come, right? So like that, you have to put a little bit of limitations if you are already addicted.
So it's kind of you breaking the habit in decided intervals. Okay, I think it's very important to get into these kind of tools and lifestyle changes. You can actually, it will be really helpful as to if you describe more on that, few tools or the lifestyle approaches that we can take.
Yes, so we can actually use again technology as well to limit this, because we can see a lot of apps, there are a lot of apps, right? We could monitor how much of time we spend on social media. So you can actually use something like that. Take 1 or 2 weeks, just observe and see how many hours you spend, then gradually reduce it. Then as I told, switch off the mobile or take breaks, frequent breaks. Then one more thing I think it's great if you could do, you can switch off the notifications. Because these constant buzzes and beeps, it's very difficult to keep our hand away from the phone. So if you could switch off the notifications for a while, then you are not, constantly going back to that device you are using, right? Then of course, having a healthy routine, it's very important, right? Physical health, mental health, it's interconnected. So you need to have a healthy life routine.
Things like exercising and all that.
Exactly. Because whatever the mental health, mental disorders, even if we take, if it's a mild stress or anxiety or depression, we always ask them to go for a physical exercise. When we are constantly with the technology and devices, we are very inactive. So apart from the mental health, then you develop serious other complications like obesity and then type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular problems. To be physically active, right? So even these things have negative impacts long term.
I'm just checking a simple thing, Thilini. I used to keep the phone always silent mode so that I have the control of getting into that. Is that a good solution or a technique to use?
It's a good technique as long as you still don't go and check it. So yes, we do that. So many people do that. We keep it silent so that we won't reach it. But what's the point even if you keep it silent and constantly checking it? Yeah, so you need to.
So it's the time break that is the miracle solution. Okay, I think we touched about children at the beginning of the discussion, but I want to get it back. Now, being a professional counselor, do you get instances where children get impacted negatively a lot?
Actually, this is my favorite question because I work with children. It's not only because of the pandemic or the current situation of the country that kids are addicted, it's been there for a while. I can, if I may share a small case study, I think about 7 years ago, I met this boy. He was about 14 years old. Father was a principal, mother was a teacher. Initially, he has started playing some games for about half an hour daily. Then it went on like, I think daily he was playing about 6, 7, 8 hours. You can't actually keep a tab. When the parents actually got this kid to me, he was not in his proper senses. He wasn't able to communicate properly, his eye contacts were not proper, so many things, and he had stopped going to schooling. He had stopped schooling, right? So not only gaming, again social media, these days of course, it definitely impacts children. I think these days I have a lot of clients like that who are addicted to digital devices.
So I'm sure there are many parents who watch this program. What is your advice to parents? How should we take this on and prevent our children getting negatively impacted?
Yes, Timothy. I think now because of this, especially because of the COVID situation, it's the first time we experienced online education, isn't it? I think I am experiencing for the first time because we haven't, while we were schooling, we haven't even heard about online education. So kids were compelled to use devices. But the issue here is without proper supervision, if anything is done, that's the problem. So there are some parents, they took it in a very positive way. They took time to supervise the kids and they set some of the rules so that kids won't get addicted. But most of the parents in our country, they weren't aware about this online education or they weren't aware of the negative impacts. So they gave full freedom and all the freedom a kid needs to use any device. That's where everything went wrong. So I think proper supervision is the first thing parents must do.
Okay, proper supervision definitely will help. In terms of getting into a psyche of a child, if he or she is actually, as you mentioned earlier, has gone to a certain level, can supervision be negative?
Yes, now the thing is, suppose if a kid has passed that level, if he's already addicted, right, if he's already coming down with his studies, one main symptom is they try to isolate themselves. So whatever the activities they were doing, suppose it's a sport or a hobby or whatever, having time with offline friends, everything stops. So you need to get that kid back to the real world, to the outer world, right? So if they are already addicted and having issues, better to stop it right there and get them engaged into other activities.
Thilini, I'm just curious to know the scientific background of this. See this little cute gadget. How can that be that detrimental to us? What happens to the brain? What is the scientific background of all this?
Since you got scared earlier, I'm going to scare you more. Okay, so there's this MRI scans reveal chemical changes in the brain of a person who is addicted to substances or drugs is almost same to a person's brain chemical changes who is addicted to a digital device. So that should tell you how dangerous it is. Again, I'm not going to scare you. Everything has pros and cons. So the moment we go beyond our limits, that's a problem. So as I told you, with these brain chemical changes, it definitely affects our emotions as well, right? So our behaviors, emotions, and everything is defined with these chemical changes. So I think during past year, we have seen incidents where kids acted really violent, and I can remember a news said that a child committed suicide because he didn't get a smartphone. So you could imagine the level of impact with these chemical changes, how long it can go on. So especially these behavior changes. Behavior changes, identifying the changes of the moods is very important. A child might get addicted to games or social media, that's fine, but you have to see the underlying cause. It's not that every kid gets addicted, right? So sometimes children are going through a lot of emotional trauma and disturbances and problems. So as parents, I think we need to identify what are these triggers and talk to them openly, and if they have problems, maybe it can be bullying, it can be a problem in the school. So talk to your child openly about these things. So that also would be a preventive measure, to take kids out of this addiction.
Thank you very much, Thilini. I think the key point that Thilini was trying to tell us was don't get scared but get alarmed. So social media and digital technology, it's not an evil, but can be an evil. So therefore, it's our responsibility to take care of ourselves, especially take care of our children, to supervise them, and also to supervise the self, so that you are not addicted, and live a healthy life and do normal activities, so that we are not getting negatively impacted by digital technology or social media. Thank you very much, Thilini, for this discussion. We got really good points. And until we meet again with another episode, goodbye.